Welcome back. You're watching Diplomatic Channel. Our guest this week is a former chairman of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, UK District. She's also treasurer of Central Associations of Nigerians in the UK, CANOC. Ronke Adeagbo joins us from London. Ronke, thank you for joining us on the program. Why has the Brexit become such a big issue in Britain?
The Brexit is the only show in town. It's what everybody is talking about. And that's because it's a landmark decision time for the UK. It's actually a make or break time for the UK. It's an opportunity for every British to have an influence in the decision-making process of the country and also to inform the direction of travel of the UK in the nearest future. So it's absolutely critical that everybody gets involved in this to ensure we get the right outcome.
Roger, there's so much that British Prime Minister David Cameron wants for Britain and he's willing to walk if these negotiations do not pull through. He's been campaigning to Britons about these reforms, especially as they prepare to go to the referendum in June. What's the most important thing for Britain in all of this?
In an ideal situation, one would expect that it should be all about the economy. But for an average man on the street, it's more about immigration, it's more about jobs. The impression of an average person on the street is that UK has lost control of its borders. Basically, immigrants are flocking into the country and taking their jobs. And also they are mindful of the fact that their infrastructure is not enough to handle the influx of the migrants. So it's a real concern for every average British because in their view, the resources are not there and they are being spread very thinly and it's not going around adequately.
Now, US President Barack Obama says an out by Britain would hinder it from fully benefiting from a US-EU trade deal in the future, as the US would rather deal with the EU as a higher priority than a separate agreement with those much smaller markets such as standalone Britain. That comment has drawn some reaction in Britain. Could Britain be on the losing end in light of what President Barack Obama is saying?
Yeah, from an American perspective, I would expect the President of the United States to say what he said because every country looks out for their own interests. It's in the interest of America to have trade agreements with a bigger bloc like the European Union rather than just with the UK on its own. So by all means, he would have to say that. Also, what he actually said verbatim is that if the UK do not fall in line or they're not part of the EU, they're going to go to the back of the queue. Now, from a political perspective, right, that's sort of leaning on the British to vote in a particular way. So it's getting some political support. It's giving some political support to Cameron. But having said that, it's looking at things from the American perspective, which is not necessarily in the best interest of the British. As you know, at the moment, the polls is actually split down right the middle. The yes camp, the remain camp, and the exit camp. So no, it's so close to call at the moment. So if I was Cameron as well, I'll be doing the same thing, getting help and support from the most powerful man in the world. And also, most people are under the impression that Clinton will be the one to succeed him. She has also echoed that point this morning, that it's in British interest to stay within the European Union. So I think somebody somewhere needs to be listening because America is the most powerful country in the world.
Britain believes that the EU could be pulling it down economically, especially as some economies such as Greece are still struggling. What do Britain's neighbours think about the proposed exit?
Now, as you know, the European Union is a club, and it's not a club of equals. You'll have those with a very strong economy and those with a very weak economy. Now, there must be a common understanding that those with the strong economy would have to support the weaker economies. Having said that, the European Union are very conscious of this. They know the British economy is very strong. Therefore, it's in their interest for this very strong economy to remain within the union to be able to shore up the weaker economies. So I can understand perfectly well why they want the UK to remain within the union.
A leading economist in the World Bank and the IMF predict Britain will have a hard time as global economy continues to fall. What is Britain's message to the naysayers?
Right. As we all know, there is strength in numbers. And I can understand why the international financial institutions are actually saying it's in Britain's best interest to remain within the Union. The moment the Prime Minister Cameron announced the date of the referendum, the pound has been falling. And this is due to the apprehension, because no one knows what's going to happen if we come out of the Union. And if we do come out of the Union, evidence suggests that the pound is going to fall further. This is not going to be good for the UK. Therefore, the financial institutions are right to start putting the warning out there that you are going to be on your own, and it might not be a situation you want to be in. There is strength in numbers, so remain within the Union, and you will be a stronger voice within the Union. So I understand why they are advising them to remain within the Union. My position is for us to stay within the Union, but with a renegotiated deal. Because the way the deal is at the moment, it's like a one-way street. If Britain can succeed in renegotiating the agreement they have on the ground, then they'll be better off for it. Now, as you know, at the moment, the EU is a big trading partner of Britain. Now, if we opt out of that, all these trade deals will start walking out of the door as we leave the European Union. And that cannot be good for our economy. So, in my opinion, it's in the best interest of Britain to stay in the European Union and make it a better union.
Ronke, in the event that the referendum in June votes no to Brexit, what could happen to Britain?
The jury is out on that, is what I'll say, because it hasn't been tested to see how well we'll survive. Because at the moment, we are sort of joined in the hips with the European Union. So if we start detaching ourselves, the apprehension alone will unstable the market. And as you know, the only business the UK has is their financial services. Now, if the financial services are jittery at the moment and no one wants to invest in equity, in UK equities and things like that, that cannot be good for the UK and the only product they have, which is the financial services.
Thanks again for joining us on the program, Ronke. That's the program this week. I'm glad you could join us. Tell us what you think. Should Britain remain in the EU? Share your thoughts with us at Diplomatic Chan, at CTV_Amara_Ubani, or on Facebook.com/Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.